The opinions expressed are those of the host. The material is for informational purposes only. It does not constitute investment advice, and it is not intended as an endorsement for any specific investment. Visit crestmontpw.com for more details.
Welcome to the Ascent. This is Sam McGee, CEO and owner of Crestmont Private Wealth. We have offices in Houston, Texas and Boerne, Texas. And as of the time of this recording, which is April 9th, I sure hope you have your tax filing complete or nearly complete. While we are recording this, we have a beautification happening at our Boerne office. So if you're listening today on a Saturday, maybe a couple weeks out, hopefully you see the new fence and masonry that we got approved by the HLC just to kind of beautify a little bit more Main Street. So I hope you enjoy that, Boerne listeners. Today, I've got a very special guest here in the office, Justin Lockhart, and let me introduce him properly. It is Dr. Justin Lockhart. He is a therapist that has a PhD, licensed professional counselor, national certified counselor, doctorate in counselor education and supervision from UTSA here locally. His areas of focus are anxiety and depression, trauma and PTSD, and men's issues and identity. Justin, thank you for being here.
Glad to be here, Sam.
Okay. So today we are talking about executive burnout, business owner burnout, whether you're a male or a female, as well as retirement issues such as identity loss. Now, at Crestmont Private Wealth, we work with wealthy individuals, affluent families, those that are high earning, and honestly, a lot of those people are very type A. You know, they take a lot of risk either in their business or they're kind of nose to the grindstone in their career, and burnout happens all the time, and we see it as advisors. Wellness is very important. And so that's why we have wellness on the show, is to talk about ways to identify this, combat it, and what resources are out there. So Justin, how often do you see this? And I know that you work with a lot of male clients, and it used to be a very female-driven industry. So tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah. So about burnout specifically?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I see it with, probably 95% of the clients I work with in some capacity. So for my folks that are involved in the business world or have kind of those more professional careers, there's this drive to succeed, this drive to perform. And I think that there's value in that, but it's also something that if we're not careful about can definitely deplete us over time.
Yeah. I think about how full is your tank concept. You know, are you bucket filling or are you bucket draining in the things that you do? And, you know, there's seasons where people go through maybe a loss of a big customer, or maybe business environment isn't what they thought it was going to be, like COVID is an example.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, how much did you see during COVID? I know you were probably getting your PhD or completing some of your study, but I mean, how impactful was COVID to this type of environment?
Oh, well, so I think, anytime we add an external stressor on an internal process that's already stressful, we're going to see an increase in burnout. Conceptually, burnout is an imbalance between job demands and job resources and personal resources. So anytime that balance is off, the bucket's going to be harder to keep full, and the bucket might have holes in it, so to speak.
So someone that's going through burnout, like, how would you characterize that for someone who's listening that doesn't even know what we're talking about? What is burnout? And I know what it is because I've been burned out, and, I promptly go get a massage and maybe go play some golf or do something. I kind of self-soothe, I guess. But, what does it really mean? What is burnout?
Yeah, so burnout's conceptualized as a combination of three different kind of core pieces. We have disengagement, so no longer really caring about your job as much. You're starting to find that it's harder to get yourself to work. You're just kind of muted while you're there. You stop caring about it as much. Cynicism is another component of it. So believing that not only do you not care about your work, but also the work you do doesn't matter. Me showing up every day doesn't matter for me, doesn't matter for my family, it doesn't matter for the clients I work with, or, in service-based businesses, the patrons of those businesses in private wealth, your clients.
Right.
And the other part of that is a lack of personal efficacy. So feeling like not only, am I disengaged at my job, not only do I think my job doesn't matter, I also don't feel like I'm very good at my job. And so when we see those things combined, it can look a lot like depression. We start to see lower energy, maybe higher irritability, fatigue, and just kind of a general sense of malaise that really can impact not only the person, but also the bottom line of the organization. We know from the burnout research and from clinical practice as well, just how impactful burnout is in terms of kneecapping an organization's potential.
Yeah, I mean, I think about that as you're saying this, and it sounds like a nightmare if you had someone who's a high performer who may be susceptible to burnout, because usually high performers are susceptible to that because they keep pushing themselves. And so just from the perspective of either a manager or an owner or just even a mentor to someone like that, what are some of the signs, beyond like the 3 points you made are great, but what are the signs and what are some things that someone could do at work to be like, hey, how you doing? What does that look like?
Yeah, so I think it looks like periodic check-ins, and really from a manager's perspective, if you have people that are working for you, making sure that those job demands and the resources they have to do their jobs are balanced, because burnout's really unique in that, unlike something like depression, it's really a work-precipitated phenomenon. And so in terms of how we address that, we look at how do we make sure that people have the resources they need to do their jobs, but also, and this is primarily where I work, is the personal resources side of it. So that's our hope, self-efficacy, resilience, optimism. I work with folks every day to try and build those things, because it doesn't just change how we cope with burnout and the stressors at work, it changes how we actually experience them.
Yeah, and wellness, I think, clearly is a strategic priority for healthy companies. And I'll just share a little bit about Crestmont, a little plug on us. Every week when we do our staff meeting, we go around the Zoom call or the Teams call, and we rank how we are doing on a 1 to 5. 5, you're having, a red letter day, great day, incredible day. A 1, you're in crisis. 2, really bad mood. Hey, I'm going to be irritable. And then we also talk about our capacity. So on a 1 to 5. So if you're just completely depleted, stretched, not resourced enough, you're at a 2. I need to know that, because that means I'm not going to load your plate with more things. And also it's probably a reflection on me as a manager and owner that I'm not getting you enough resources. So there's no stigma of saying, hey, I'm at a 2. We make that very, very clear, but we've kind of tried to create an environment where that's okay to say, hey, I'm not okay, I need some help. Do you find that many businesses follow that pattern? And what are your thoughts on, the healthiness of that? I mean, I'm truly asking because I've never asked a therapist, is that okay? So in regard to Crestmont, free help here.
In regard to Crestmont specifically, I think that's a great approach for a couple of reasons. One, because it encourages kind of that self-evaluation and attunement. So looking at realistically, how am I doing today? Which is something that I think is unfortunately pretty rare in the work environment. It's come into your job, go home. Yep. But it also encourages attunement between your people and you as a manager, which I think is also really important, because it can be easy to just sort of overlook that. And we've seen over the last 20 years or so, just billions upon billions of dollars poured into this topic. I mean, you think about Gallup, who's one of the biggest organizations that studies this. Your big 4 firms, your big 3 firms, all of these places have poured a lot of money into this, but unfortunately, it can be lip service sometimes, which is the big trap that people fall into. Hey, I'm spending a lot of money on this, but is it actually having the impact that I want? And a lot of that can be related to stigma. So that's something I think in particular we have to be really, really, really aware of in terms of our work culture. A lot of this comes back to work culture and intentionality around that. Do we create the safety that's needed to share these things? So to answer your question briefly, it's definitely not as common as it should be. And even in places where it is common, it's not necessarily done effectively.
Interesting. Yeah. Do you find that the larger the organization, the more difficult it is, or is there really a correlation between small and large?
I think it has to do with the amount that's invested at the team level.
Okay.
So do you feel connected with your manager? Do you feel connected with your coworkers? And I'm not talking about work happy hours. I'm talking about you have managers and coworkers who genuinely ask how you're doing, and they expect an honest answer. The culture at the organization is, we're honest about this, and we tell people when we're struggling. And I think that has a ripple effect in society as a whole when we get it really down pat in that workplace environment.
Yeah, the engagement level, I think, is so important. I mean, even as an owner, for me, who could probably be susceptible to burnout if I'm under-resourced, I think it's really important to, be engaged with your team, make sure that you're understanding how they're doing, but also, kind of self-care. Make sure that you're not burned out, because it's kind of like the old adage of, oxygen on the plane. You don't put it on your kids first, you put it on you first so you can get oxygen to your kids. So, taking care of yourself is not an unselfish thing. It's to make sure you're at your best for your team, for your employees, for your clients. So don't feel bad about going out and playing that Friday round of golf, right? So, okay. One other thing that I wanted to just touch on here is, and when we met through a common friend who's a therapist here in town, Jillian Rodriguez. Shout out to her. We talked a little bit about your vision for implementation of wellness and this kind of investment into companies. In your dream scenario, what does that look like? What does success look like for you in making that a reality?
Well, so I think it looks like, more broadly, even beyond me, organizations bringing folks in to take a hard look at their culture and say, are we really doing what we think we're doing? And then building structure, trainings, even a certain number of contracted sessions in to really support employee wellness. And I think discretion's a big part of that too, making sure that we're not meddling in other people's personal affairs in that way, but that we're creating the expectation that these things are used, and then honoring that, backing it up as leaders and in the day-to-day environment.
Today has been really helpful to hear from Justin, Dr. Lockhart, and I really think that this is a topic that if you're an owner of a business or an executive and maybe you're struggling, it may open your eyes to, hey, I individually need some help. Or maybe you're doing fine, but your team's not doing so great, and maybe they're not as productive as they could be. Is pushing them harder really the answer? Or is it they're under-resourced, or maybe wellness is a thing? And so, this is a topic that doesn't really pop up very much. It's not like you go and listen to earnings calls and they spend 20 minutes talking about wellness. But I'll be honest with you, people are what drive organizations, not products. And so I think it's a topic that deserves a lot of attention. And I'm really glad that you've been able to come on the show, shed a little bit of light, and I've learned that there's a real industry for this, and it's
Absolutely.
something that you're passionate about. So how would somebody reach you if they wanted to talk further about this?
Yeah, so the easiest way to reach me for those that are interested, whether in individual services or kind of these corporate packages, is Dr. Lockhart at lockhartmentalhealth.com. You can just send me an email, and I'm happy to work with you to set up individual services or organizational packages based on the unique needs of your organization.
Excellent. So I'm going to close with a quote. So we were actually extending an offer to a potential new employee today, and really excited about this. And we actually had this topic of conversation about wellness and vision and all the things that are so important, when we talk about career progression. And that quote is, "In the joy of others lies our own." And I think that is just such a great quote. When you think about Bernie, you think about the community here, people looking after people, and that's exactly what we're talking about today. We're talking about employee culture, wellness, and how you can be at your absolute best. And you do that by providing a path for others. I hope you have a wonderful weekend, and God bless.